Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to talk about some Qabala books, and I have 3 books here that I want to talk about in regard to Qabala and Qabala practice. I have talked about Qabala before, and on my channel I've got a playlist of some other Qabala books, and some of those books are in regard to Qabala and Tarot and Qabala foundational books. But the ones I want to talk about today are for people who want to learn more about Qabala and also want to find out about possibly using that as part of their spiritual practice. So I have 3 books here, and of course the Qabala that I talk about is always Hermetic Qabalah, which is the Qabala of the Golden Dawn, and it is always spelt with a Q most of the time, because that is the way that the Golden Dawn wanted Hermetic Qabalah to be spelt, with a Q. So the first book is called Magical Qabalah by Frater Barrabbas, who has his own order. This is published by Llewellyn, and it was published in recent years, and it is quite easily available. It's a very good book. What I really like about this book is the first beginning chapters, or the first part of the book, is a very good history of Qabala. I think that is really important for people to know about if you're interested in Qabala, what the history is, because Hermetic Qabalah of the Golden Dawn gets confused with Jewish Qabala in particular so often. It's a really good idea to know the basic history of Qabala and how it changed over time. And I have mentioned that in another Qabala video as well, about how Qabala with the Golden Dawn is actually quite different to Jewish Qabala, and why it's different, and the different spelling. So this book covers that really well. And it talks about all of the basics about Qabala as well. I think it's written in a really accessible way. I think it's fairly accessible. It also makes a good reference book. It talks about the whole framework and structure of Qabala itself. It talks about the 22 paths, which with Hermetic Qabalah is linked to the 22 major arcana cards of the tarot. And it talks about the basic concepts of Qabala. And towards the back of the book, there is a section about ritual with Qabala, and that's why it's called Magical Qabalah, because the Golden Dawn particularly used Qabala for spiritual development and ceremonial magic. So for anyone who wants to know a bit more about rituals, that is in here. There's an index in the back of the book, and there is a very good glossary of terms in here as well, which I also think is a great idea, because the terms will seem quite different to our usual familiarity with words. A glossary in the back of the book is really useful. So I really like this book. I think it's probably one of the best books that does a great all-round general approach to Qabala, but it's quite informative and useful at the same time. So I really like this one, Magical Qabalah by Frater Barrabbas. And it's a really good book also, because as the book goes further towards the back, it will get a bit more from beginner to intermediate, but that's okay, because you could just take your time with part 1 of the book before you get into part 2 at all. There are charts in here as well. There are some charts in here, but it's just a great all-round book, and as I said, it also makes a great general reference book as well. The next one is written by a British expert in Qabala. He wrote a few books on Qabala, and he also had his own system, and that is William Gray, and this one is called Qabalistic Concepts. This is still in print. It's published by Weiser, and this book is very good as well. This book is a practical book. This book has a bit more in here about rituals and the practical use of Qabala. And the other thing that's a bit different about this book as well is it is related to tarot as well. What is different is William Gray talks in the first few chapters of the book about the general approach of Qabala and the general structure. But then about halfway through the book, he starts introducing his own concepts and his own ideas. And they were very much his own, and he did influence other later groups in Britain that came after him, because he did influence quite a few esotericists. This book is still in print. It's still relatively easy to get. I think it's not as approachable as the first book that I showed, but for someone who wants to know a bit more about other approaches to Qabala, other theories or concepts that people had, this book is particularly about concepts as well as practical ideas. So that's why it is called Qabalistic Concepts, but it is a very good book for people who want to know more about Qabala. They want to know more about it in a practical sense, but they're also interested in finding out about alternative ideas and concepts. It might be more of an intermediate book from that point of view. I think it's a better book if you've got more of a foundational understanding of Qabala to begin with, but it is a very good book. So Qabalistic Concepts by William Gray. And the third book, final book for today, is by Ted Andrews, and I have mentioned at least one other Ted Andrews book on my playlist for Tarot and Qabala books before, but this book is particularly about ritual and practical exercises. This is Secret Doors of the Qabala by Ted Andrews. And this is quite accessible. Ted Andrews did write in an accessible way, but this book is more of an intermediate book as well, like the other one I just spoke about, because it would be better to read the previous book of Ted Andrews about the Qabala, which is called More Simplified Magic, and I have got that on another video playlist for Tarot and Qabala on my channel. But for people who have enough knowledge of Qabala, who want to know more about deeper concepts and how they could be applied to ritual and practical exercises, this book is particularly about that. But it is an intermediate level because of the ideas that are in here. It may seem too different and too esoteric if a good foundational understanding of Qabala is not there, then this book will just seem too difficult to understand because of the ideas and concepts in here. But if you do have that foundational knowledge, if you know enough about Qabala, it's a really good intermediate book to learn about Qabala practice in regard to ritual and practical exercises. So this is Secret Doors of the Qabala by Ted Andrews. Okay, so there are 3 more books on Qabala for people who want to know more about Qabala and how to apply that in a practical way to their spiritual practice. And I'll put the details below the video as usual. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.